Back at it here with some more college fantasy football rankings. We're going to be going through our top 30 running backs. We've covered the Power Four guys, so we're going to make a point in this episode to go through, really emphasize our G5 guys and, John, all of the Power Four guys that we haven't covered already, we haven't dug in deep with, either on our sleeper episode or otherwise. Before we get into it, just got to say, we are seeing a ton of folks join over at patreon.com/rookiebigboard for the CFF content. Every year, our college fantasy football side of the house grows more. We've got our full rankings, Power 4 and full FBS 136. So a lot of good stuff going on. If you want to join, the link will be in the episode description. But also featured in the episode description, John, is our fundraiser for St. Jude as a part of the 2025 CFF Kings Classic, which is just about 10 days away.
Yeah, Matt, I am so excited for the 5th annual CFF Kings Classic from the CFF Expo or Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio. The family and I are driving out on Thursday. Matt and I live broadcast the draft. We are going to have as many participants in the draft live on the show. Matt, it's one of our biggest shows every summer.
Oh, yeah.
At the Rookie Big Board. This will be our 5th year, broadcast, and it's great event. It's 10 in the morning, August 9th, everyone. Go to the Rookie Big Board channel. You can watch us live on there. And really, all that Matt and I do with the videos and everything we do with the Kings Classic and helping out people win championships, please help out. If you like what we do, if you want to support us, please join or donate to St. Jude's fundraiser. The link's below. Any amount, $5 to $20 is awesome. It just supports children and families, and Matt and I would appreciate it.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's get into our top 30 here, John. And starting off with somebody who I do want to dig into. I want to like this player more, so I'm open to it, John. I want to hear the pitch. You have him a bit higher. I do still like him. I also like CJ Baxter. What are we doing with Trey Wisner in this Texas backfield?
I like him because I'm concerned about Baxter. Do I like Wisner? Yes. But if Baxter wasn't on the roster, I could make the argument that Wisner is a top 10 running back.
Easily.
If he was going to get 220 touches in this backfield. But Matt, Baxter's sitting there. Reports are kind of all over the place, right? Baxter's value has changed since March to now. But I look back, Matt, Trey Wisner had over 1,000 yards rushing. I could not believe when I look back at the numbers, right? You think about the Longhorns, you think about the passing game last year, but he averaged 4.7 yards per carry. He only had 5 touchdowns on the ground. But Matt, his real value, 44 receptions, 311 yards and 1 touchdown. I do believe there's touchdown equity to be had in this Longhorns offense. And Texas is easily, a top 5 team, if not
easily.
top 3 team at the start of the season. So if he gets his 250 touches, I'm all in. That's why I have him ranked where he is.
Very nice. Dylan Carson, next one up here out of Air Force. On the surface, John, you see 600 rushing yards last season. Not super impressive, but I was very impressed with him down the stretch for the Falcons last year. Last 4 games of the season, 120 yards, 97, 105, 125 yards, at least 1 touchdown in every game. That's when he took over the bulk of the carries. There's always a little bit of hesitation when it comes to an academy backfield because you're never quite sure if it's going to be the same guy. But I can proceed with a decent amount of confidence here with Dylan Carson.
I absolutely agree. And I know there are a lot of people more bullish on Carson than I am. I like him. I love him as a 4th running back on a best ball team. That's like my ideal value. Maybe as a 3rd running back. His last month was spectacular, Matt. But are we guaranteed to get over 20 touches a game from the B-back in that Air Force offense? There's always questions about that. But I will say what I feel confident in, Matt, is the touchdown equity. If he's the guy near the goal line, Arizona does force the ball into those players at the goal line, but I have a little bit more trepidation than others. I like them. I'm just not absolutely in love because you're right. I'm worried about that Air Force attack.
Yeah, next up here, we have a good run of group of 5 guys to get into. We're going to go past Jaden Ott at 27 and Jam Miller at 28. These are guys that we have talked about extensively, especially in our underdog drafts, John, because those are guys who I really like. Jaden Ott's a big sleeper for me. Jam Miller was on our sleepers episode as well, so make sure you watch that if you haven't already. I do want to take some time to talk about Saban Gura, though, because this is somebody who I had heavy exposure to and was doing pretty well with it. You know, you go back to 2022 and 2023, you have 1,900 combined rushing yards over those 2 seasons, 20 combined rushing touchdowns over those 2 seasons. He transfers to Minnesota last year, doesn't get any playing time, real dud for CFF purposes. But now he transfers back to Ohio, right? And so that makes a really interesting situation. And this episode, you know, the thumbnail, it's going to say league winners, John. That's what we're looking for, right? We're looking to find league winners at all different points of your drafts. And Bangura, for me, he's a potential league winner.
There's no question he could be the guy who wins your league for you. You mentioned his 2 years at Ohio is basically the main ball carrier, Matt.
Yeah.
1,078 yards, 811 yards, 20 touchdowns in those 2 seasons. This is what I like a lot. 43 targets and 24 targets in the 2 seasons. But, man, he went to Minnesota last year, and he just didn't get on the field. I mean, and that was a Big Ten program, Power 4 program. Unfortunately, the reality is just some backs are, you know, can succeed at the G5 level, and maybe the depth chart, the challenge, it just doesn't work at the higher level. I'm excited that he goes back to Ohio. I think he's going to be great for the Bobcats this year. I like him a lot.
All right, next up here, Justice Haynes at 25. We've definitely talked about Haynes a good amount already, but maybe, John, just a quick note on his backfield mate, Jordan Marshall, who's not in our top 30. He's a little bit deeper in our rankings, and the rankings that are available over at patreon.com/rookiebigboard, they're 75 deep at every position. So we're technically not even going through half. So Jordan Marshall, he's buried a little bit, but just as a later round guy, John, you taking a shot on Marshall?
I do think if you take Justice Haynes, I'm not a huge handcuffer in college fantasy football. In the NFL, I'm more willing to do it. But some of the best deep balls, if I get Justin Haynes, I do get Jordan Marshall as a handcuff. I think there's value there. I would say if you're in your typical 20-man roster, regular full season, I might not get Marshall unless I'm like, if my backfield has a spot and Haynes is my top guy, then I might get Marshall. I do like him, but I think just Haynes is better, Matt. Yeah, I just do. Yeah. Former 5-star. I think he's bigger. I think he's better. And I think he's going to get the bulk of the touches.
Fantastic. All right, let's get into our top 24 here. And we're going to go ahead and start with Chip Trayanum, another guy that has had quite a journey. 2 years at Ohio State, 2 years at Arizona State to start his career. Last year at Kentucky. John, he's been a running back, then a linebacker, then a running back, then a linebacker. So now he's at Toledo to finish his career. He's a running back. There's volatility here, but at the end of the day, you have the potential to have the volume back in a Toledo offense that we've talked about before. We really like the Toledo offense because it's one, playing against MAC defenses, but two, traditionally one of the best MAC offenses.
I spoke about Chip Trayanum. I think it was on our Do Not Draft show, right? And he's going way earlier than you and I are comfortable drafting him. It's more about ADP and value. I love the offense. I love MAC defenses to the bully around. My concern is Chip Trayanum himself, Matt. He's always one of these guys who's floating around, but I never see the production for a full season on the field.
Absolutely. All right, next up here at 23, we have Kamari Moulton. We've talked about Moulton a good amount as the lead back in the Iowa offense. Never a bad situation to get good exposure to. Next up here, he's not a group of five guy anymore. It's running back Ahmad Hardy. He absolutely tore it up as a true freshman at University of Louisiana Monroe. 237 carries, 1,351 rushing yards, 13 rushing touchdowns. He's going to go up to Mizzou. It's going to be, I think, a little bit of a split backfield, but I'm expecting Hardy to have, 40 to 50%. He should be the lead running back in that offense.
I was a little bit concerned in March about Hardy jumping up from the G5 to the Power 4, specifically the SEC, right?
Yeah.
So quickly. And I loved him last year. We voted for him as the Adrian Peterson Award winner, which is the fantastic freshman in college fantasy football. He was spectacular at University of Louisiana Monroe. Easy for me to say on that one, everyone. But you know what? Over the course of the offseason, Matt, the reports are very positive out of Missouri. And I do think he's going to be on the plus side of any kind of running back by committee timeshare. I would say as training camps are opening, I would expect him to get about 60% of the touches. The staff really likes him, and he's bigger than you think. I think he's like 210 pounds. So I think he's got the size. Just will he have the lateral moves and the vision at the SEC level?
And, as far as an SEC schedule goes, it's not bad.
It's
Central
not bad.
Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, South Carolina, UMass, you get Bama, Auburn, then Vanderbilt, A&M, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Arkansas. I mean, it's hard to get a better SEC draw right there.
Not bad at all if you're the Tigers.
All right, next up here is Sear Gaines out of Boise State. This is projection, right? We've seen just a little bit of him. Highly touted freshman, 6'0", 210. He's going to step into the Ashton Jeanty role. Certainly nobody's expecting him to be Ashton Jeanty, but again, another situation where the offense is Mountain West playing weak defenses. They should be able to really control the tempo. That should lead to volume. That should lead to scoring opportunities. I think you could definitely do worse in the mid rounds of your drafts.
Without question, Matt. And if we look at the Boise State program, since I've been playing college fantasy footballs, and I believe this is my 17th year now, this program has really produced high-level running backs. You go all the way back to Jeremy McNichols and last year with Ashton Jeanty. I don't think Gaines is in that pantheon of greatness, but he should get the vast majority of the touches. You're also looking at a schedule that isn't daunting for him. And the Broncos, they put points on the board consistently. They change coaches, Matt. They kind of move around sometimes in the conference. But you know what? At the end of the day, the Boise State Broncos run the football. Gaines is one of those guys who could win you the league.
All right. On to number 20, running back Antoine Raymond, who we've discussed as the lead volume back there in the Rutgers offense. I'm big on Jamal Haynes, heavy exposure there to the Georgia Tech run-first offense at 19. Let's get into the top 18 here, John. And as we do that, want to let folks know, drop us those comments on the video. Let us know, did we miss somebody? Is there somebody outside of the top 30 that you want to know more about? Somebody we're too high on, too low on? We love to chop it up and have that discourse. Make sure you're subscribed. We're going to be keeping that college fantasy football content coming at you, not only leading up to the season, but we've got a little bit more planned for you as well. So make sure you're subscribed. All right, getting into the top 18 here, John, we have talked a bit about Wayman Jordan out of USC. Transfer coming in. He was on your sleepers list, if I'm remembering correctly here. Is it still a player that you're really leaning into the exposure on?
Matt, he's going to be one of the guys who makes or breaks my college fantasy football season. I was looking up rostership. I believe I have him right now on 7 of 12 teams.
Ooh.
I can't pass up Wayman Jordan in the third round. I think I just took him in our dynasty draft. We're doing that dynasty draft with the rookie big board members. I took him again. I mean, this is a player that I'm invested in. I think he's in a really good spot, and I think he's a good back.
Yeah, and I'll just, as a quick aside, we love to run leagues for the Rookie Big Board patrons, and we're
Yes.
doing a startup dynasty, CFF dynasty, and the strategy is just so different, John. It's been one of my, it's been one of the most fun drafts I've had this offseason, thinking so differently about the game and how you kind of balance out those priorities. So let's go ahead.
And Matt, I love the fact you did a super flex. We have 2 starting quarterbacks and then a super flex. So also that changes the strategy. Where do I draft these quarterbacks? Yeah, it's been a great draft so far.
Oh, and I love my quarterbacks. I've got a nice set of 4 there too. All right, Nate Frazier out of Georgia. That's a guy I've been getting a lot of exposure to. I know it's the Georgia offense, but the production as a true freshman has just really impressed me. And I'm hoping that he's able to go over 1,000 yards this season. Quentin Joyner, very productive out of USC last year. He's going to be in Texas Tech. They put a lot of money into the offense, and they're expecting big things there in Texas Tech. He's at 16.
Matt, we got good news. Baron Morton is going to be starting at training camp on the field, which I've been watching closely, and he's been a ridiculous value as like my 5th quarterback in best ball drafts.
That is fantastic news. Absolutely. It's going to really help keep that offense going.
That's the key. Keep the offense going.
Yep. All right. 15, Jonah Coleman out of Washington. This is a back, I watched the tape from a draft perspective. Yeah, a little hot and cold, but I think just in terms of CFF specifically this year, John, you're chasing volume with Jonah Coleman, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's going to be tons of value in there. I know there's a monkey wrench with Demon Williams, the quarterback, right? And I understand people are worried about that. But at the end of the day, Williams is still just the second-year quarterback, Matt. And if he starts off cold or if there's any concern, what are you going to do? You're going to rely on your 5th-year running back who's well over 220 pounds. I still think Coleman's going to get a healthy diet of carries this year.
All right, this next one is really interesting for me. Bryson Donaldson, Fresno State. It's not somebody who I feel like is getting all of the hype, but he's never low in rankings either. I feel like he's just in this middle ground, and you can understand it to a degree, right? Not a ton of proven production, just 77 carries as a true freshman for the Bulldogs last year, but 6 yards per carry on those touches, 462 yards. 3 touchdowns. He also had 21 receptions. So he's proven that he can get it done. We expect him to be the lead back. I got to say, honestly, John, going through prepping for this episode, I was thinking I should really have more Donaldson.
I probably should have more Donaldson also. Just the way my roster construction is gone and where he's going, his ADP is like late 2nd round, early 3rd round. So I understand that. And when I looked at him in April, when I first did my rankings, Matt, I was surprised that he came out so high. I was like, he really finished the season pretty well. He should by far be the lead ball carrier for the Bulldogs here. He's a good player. The little bit of tape I watched, he's excited, he's explosive, and he's playing the Mountain West competition, right? I mean, there's going to be some high-scoring games out there. I agree with you. I like Donaldson, and I probably should get more of him through the month of August.
Yeah, he's going to be a priority ad for me for sure. All right. I do want to take time to talk about Jaheim White because I'm going to count him in that same Donaldson conversation. But when we're talking about potential league winners, Jaheim White does really jump out to me. You look at his previous production, he has 840 rushing yards in each of the last 2 seasons. He's averaged at least 5.5 yards per carry the last 2 seasons, 7 rushing touchdowns for the Mountaineers. And now you have the Rich Rodriguez offense, right? So I know we think a lot of that as throwing the ball, but there is plenty of emphasis on the run game as well. And it opens up the field.
Without question. And Rich Rod can be difficult to analyze at a running back because his running backs are all over, Matt. He's had some years like with Steve Slayton way back at West Virginia and Trey Stewart last year with Jacksonville State. Absolutely smashed. But then there's other years where he rotates guys or he never finds a guy, right? And he can frustrate CFF owners. I'm on the side right now with CJ Donaldson leaving the program, going to Ohio State. I believe White is the best player on the roster. If you're returning for the first year, they have quarterback questions. Doesn't Rich Rod get the ball into the hands to his best player? I look at the roster and I say White is the best player, and I'm banking on efficiency, not volume. I think he's an extremely efficient running back, a little undersized, but Rich Rod will get him into space where he can win.
All right, and we're getting into our top 12 running backs now, and starting here with Nick Singleton. We have talked about Singleton from a Devy perspective. I'm not as excited as some folks, but from a CFF perspective, John, Singleton at 12 or Katron Allen a little bit later, I've been leaning more towards the late round Katron Allen myself.
I have to admit that Singleton is on far too many. Him and Wayman Jordan are the two guys. I think I took Singleton in our rookie big board too. Now, I get why he fell because he's a senior. So in a dynasty league, he only has 1 year of eligibility remaining. So I grabbed him. But I've got a lot of Singleton. I love him in the third round. I get it that you have Katron Allen, and it does cap Singleton's season or ceiling. I'm sorry. But I still think he's just too talented. And I love him as my second back.
All right, fair enough. Caden Durham, definitely somebody who I have a lot of exposure to this year, the LSU running back. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. But I want to take some time to talk about Claiborne here, the running back for Wake Forest. High volume guy, John. But there is, there's the coaching change. Any worries about the scheme fit here, or are you willing to trust the returning production? Year one, not a full overhaul there. What's kind of your read on what Jake Dicker might be, planning for the Deacon Demons this season?
When I first looked at Dicker, I was a little bit worried. You always are concerned when you have coaching turnover. What is this system? What is it going to do? How's he changing the program? But in my research, Matt, Claiborne had entered the transfer portal or was heavily thinking of it. The first person that Dicker called was Claiborne. And he convinced Claiborne to return to Wake Forest. And basically what you can infer from the conversation the two men had, he said to Claiborne, you are going to be the center of my offense. You are going to be the guy. And Claiborne got himself out of the portal, went back to Wake Forest. And Matt, I was surprised by this. He had 23 receptions last year, averaging 11 yards per catch. I think he's a very high floor type running back with massive volume projected, and I've grown to like him over the summer.
Fantastic. Well, Jeremiah Love has been discussed plenty. We talked about, he went in the first round of our Underdog live draft video that we just did. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you watch that one after this. And maybe he should have gone on our do not draft because he's going high, even though we like him at running back 9. I think a lot of folks are taking him as running back 3 or 4. Dylan Edwards out of Kansas State. We are in sync on him. This might be the only one where he's ranked 8th and we both had him 8th. Really kind of steady, both pass and rushing opportunity in that Wildcats offense. But the next guy up here is Al-Jay Henderson out of Buffalo. And this is I wanted to take time to dig into Henderson here because this is somebody who, he doesn't go late, but he doesn't go early. And you really have to think he's kind of like the top of the second tier for me at running back. And I think there's always a real decision point. Do you go Henderson? Do you start the run at the second tier of running backs, or do you pivot away? And honestly, John, I have been more pivoting away than going for it, but I don't feel confident in that.
I don't have a lot of Henderson. If I feel like there's a value and he falls to me, I think I've taken him once or twice, but he's not usually a player I put on the queue. But I have been looking at him. check out this schedule, man.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I understand why some people really, really like him. So he's coming off a 1,000-yard season, right? He's been on campus for a long time. I think he's a fifth-year player on campus. So you open up with Minnesota. Okay, I get it. That's a tough matchup, right? Just get through it, right? That's a get-through game. St. Francis.
Amazing.
Kent State, who might be the worst team.
Might as well be in the FCS.
Troy. Now, but UConn that's a decent defense. They are. But it's still a game at home for Buffalo. Eastern Michigan.
Oof,
UMass.
Easy.
Akron. Bowling Green. I mean, Matt, the schedule oozes 1,500-yard back.
Yeah.
I probably should be targeting more because there is that massive upside. And he's explosive. I found a good X post on Twitter where I showed his home run hitting ability in my profile. He's got the juice, and the schedule's unbelievable.
Yeah, even for the MAC, that's a nice schedule.
Yes,
no Toledo, no Northern Illinois. Also, by the way, very quietly in the offseason, UMass is in the MAC now. So it still throws me off every time I see it. All right, let's get into our top 6 here. And we're going to start with a player who is no longer in the group of 5, but he is coming from Tulane, who was in the group of 5, and that's Mekhi Hughes, right? The big question is, can he step up, adjust to the Big Ten competition after just being phenomenal for the Green Wave over the past 2 seasons?
I look at Mekhi Hughes, and my analysis goes very similar to what has occurred in the past at Alabama. Nick Saban knew how to identify running backs, Matt. So does Oregon. I love the young man at Tulane. Smashed back-to-back 1,300 seasons with 22 touchdowns the last 2 years. If the Oregon Ducks staff identified as Mekhi Hughes in the portal, that's the guy we want. You know what, Matt? I'm smart enough to say the staff knows more than I do.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like they waited and dilly-dallied. It's not like they tried to bring in other backs. Like, I think they got Mekhi Hughes as quick as you could get him, Matt.
Yep.
Like, what does that tell me? The staff knows with Jordan James gone, the staff knows that they needed a back. They needed a bulldozer. They needed someone in Mekhi Hughes. So I'm just going to go with the coaching staff. They've told me that they like this young man.
Absolutely. Well, I am heavily exposed to Isaac Brown, the running back out of Louisville. Oh, so much Isaac Brown. Averaged over 7 yards a carry, 1,100 rushing yards as a true freshman, 11 touchdowns for the Cardinal. They got Miller Moss coming in at quarterback, and you know what that means. You're going to need a running back. So I'm definitely in on him. But more importantly here, or not more importantly, but somebody who I think we want to dig into just a bit more is Anthony Hankerson, the running back out of Oregon State. And this is another guy, John, right at the back end of tier 1 of the quarterbacks in terms of ADP, kind of right into that L.J. Henderson territory. I think Hankerson and Henderson, they tend to go right after each other in my drafts. And so you kind of have a similar question in that sense, but, you know, over 1,000 yards for Oregon State last year, 15 touchdowns. That's super juicy. Remember, Oregon State, they've got the funky schedule. They play Washington State twice this year.
It's so bizarre, dude.
It's so cool.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I don't get it. Like, it is the weirdest thing that they play Washington State. But that's like, I could do a whole rant on how the hell they scheduled each other for twice.
I mean, it's a crazy. Let's just take a moment. They open against Cal, right? Who, again, they're in the ACC. Then they get Fresno State. So that's the Mountain West agreement. They go to Texas Tech. They go to Eugene, Houston, App State, Wake Forest. They get Lafayette. So there's your FCS one.
Yeah.
The first Washington State game, which is at the beginning of November, Sam Houston, Tulsa, and then they get Washington State again at the end of November. I think they should have at least opened and then ended. That would have been cool if they had done that with Washington State, but
I can't believe they did it twice. It's November 1st and November 29th. Like, that is even like crazier. You're right. They should have done at least like October 1st, or maybe it would have been nice to open, right? Maybe the big weekend. But the way they did it, this is the weirdest schedule. And I'm a UConn fan. I've seen weird schedules, and this is as weird as it gets. I don't think it's very hard, Matt. I do think Hankerson's going to get his 250 touches. He's the bulldozer. They're going to run the ball, defensive-minded scheme, right? You got some, Oregon's probably a bump in the road. But, I mean, Washington State, I don't know what to make out of them with all the changes, losing everything, right? They play them twice. But I do think Hankerson is in line. I think it's a great, like, at the end of round one, it's often him and Henderson who you're choosing.
yeah, I think it's just a situation with Hankerson where as long as he's healthy, he's touching the ball 250 times. And you don't even have to be efficient. There's just, you do have Malik Murphy in that offense too, though. So I trust the running game. I think they're going to run the ball a ton, and there's going to be those goal line opportunities there. So the only slight concern, right, is Murphy going to take those goal line touchdowns away?
Yeah.
Maybe, but I still trust Hankerson will be in the double digits there. And
Matt, you want to know something? I thought about why did they bring in Malik Murphy? And when you have a defensive-minded coach and you have a good running back, bring in an upperclassman who hands the ball off and won't turn it over.
Yeah, like control the pace of the game.
Yeah, it's not going to be Malik Murphy's offense. He's really going to be I hate the term, your game manager for the Beavers.
Yeah, which isn't bad.
No, it's not bad in college football. It's not.
All right, well, we have talked about our top three guys plenty. Desmond Reed, Darius Taylor, Bryson Washington. So the question I'll ask from this group, John, is, you can see the rankings that we have up there. We like all three. They're in our top tier. But just by way of your drafts, your exposure this offseason, I'm curious to hear who you've added the most for.
There's no question I have Desmond Reed the most.
Yeah.
The reality is I've had the number one pick 3 times, Matt.
Okay, Fleck.
And I got the number one pick in the Kings Classic. I'm at a conundrum because all 3 times I've had number one, I took Desmond Reed, and that's not a wise choice at the end of the day when you have 3 very talented players who are very close, right? You can make an argument for any one of these 3. I'll say I have the most exposure to Reed. I have Bryson Washington. I got a ton because I liked him early. I got him in the second round in March twice. Can't get him there now.
Yeah.
Darius Taylor, I probably have least amount, but it's kind of just, what? Now I'm going to get this, but I haven't drafted a lot from number 5 to like number 10.
Yeah.
It's been on the back end, 11, 12, or it's been on the front end, 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, it's really good to see that different perspective. I've just ended up more in that middle range, and I've gotten a lot of Bryson Washington.
He's there a lot, right?
And a lot of Darius Taylor. And so I like all 3. I don't have one Desmond Reed. It's not because I don't like him, but it's if you're not drafting early, you're going to be more looking at Darius Taylor and Bryson Washington, and I'm perfectly comfortable with it.
I've been thinking, this is how crazy I can be. I've been thinking for 3 weeks now, who do I take number one in Kings Classic? Matt and I did it on one of our shows. And I go, do I risk 4 or 5 teams with the same running back? I haven't made a decision yet.
That's risky.
He is my number one guy right now, though. But I think like all 3.
I think you'll just have to let him slide to number 2, John. I think whoever is drafting second, I think will just be okay with that.
And who's drafting second, Matt?
Oh, you'll have to tune in to find out. Make sure you're subscribed. We've got a ton more college fantasy football content coming your way. If you want the rankings, if you want the personalized CFF advice, head on over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard. The link will be in the episode description, along with the link to support our fundraising efforts for St. Jude, along with the 2025 College Fantasy Football Kings Classic. We're going to be back real soon with some more college fantasy football breakdown.